this talk about recession and whether or not the U.S. economy is headed for recession seems like a really good time to talk about the Sahm rule. During your tenure at the Federal Reserve, you developed an index that is really good at spotting recessions. In fact, it was so good that the Fed gave it a name. They called it the Sahm rule after you, and they still track and publish it today. You can just Google Sahm rule and boom, there it is. So first, congratulations. I don't know of any other economist with their own statistics. So job well done. Second, what data does the Sahm rule use to draw conclusions about the economy, and is it pointing towards recession?
Mm-hmm. Oh, the first thing I'll say is the Fed didn't give it the name. They love me, but I'm not sure they love me that much. I actually developed it for a volume called Recession Ready. It was run by the Hamilton Project at Brookings. And the whole, and this was written in 2019, and it was about when the next recession comes, how can we do better to help people and businesses and communities? My chapter was on, as soon as a recession starts, you send out stimulus checks. I've done a lot of research on the different types of support that were given to families in the Great Recession, what worked, it didn't work so well. And so I knew stimulus checks were a powerful way early on to kind of blunt the effects of the recession and just help people when everything is, starting to go wrong. So to do that, I had to have an indicator of when do you send out the checks. The federal government might get a little fussy with me if I had a proposal that sent out $300 billion and it didn't turn out to be a recession. Now, I doubt people would be upset about that, but I mean, in terms of the budget and doing stuff. And so that's why the Sahm rule exists. It really never was. I had no idea I was going to become an expert on are we in a recession or not, which has not been fun the first half of this year, but I'm happy to help. I think it was useful in the discussion. So the idea of the Sahm rule is, you look at the national unemployment rate. To me, the reason that we hate recessions, the reason we fight recessions is millions of workers lose their jobs. And most Americans do not have the financial cushion, the money in the bank to deal with the loss of a paycheck, especially a sudden loss of a paycheck. So you look at the national unemployment rate. I take a 3-month moving average. We never want to freak out over one piece of data, even if it's like the last monthly CPI, like things happen, right? So I take a 3-month moving average. I compare the latest number to the low over the prior 12 months. And if right now we're half a percentage point higher or more, we are within the first few months of a recession. It doesn't forecast a recession, but it tells us it's here. And I mean, the COVID recession was very unusual that it was just like, it was here and the bottom fell out. Most recessions, like the Great Recession, they kind of start slowly, but a half a percentage point is not much on the unemployment rate. But historically, once the labor markets, once workers start to lose their jobs, their paychecks, and they spend less, right? It's a dynamic that keeps going. And I mean, in the Great Recession, it was a half a percentage point up, and then it was many percentage points up, right? So the idea is, the Sahm rule is workers are starting to lose their jobs. This is going to keep going. Now is the time that if we get money out, we might be able to short circuit or at least blunt that dynamic. Because again, we're getting people in money in people's pockets that maybe have suddenly either they lost their jobs or they got their overtime cut, there's just a lot of factors. So that's
and it's money in their pockets before the electricity is turned off, before the foreclosure, before the landlord shows up the door, before exactly.
Yeah, because we're all in this together. So if millions of Americans start getting into a bad place, it does eventually affect not all of us. The 1% are okay. I don't worry about them. But for most people, it can have negative adverse consequences. So we need to take it seriously and get going right at the beginning.